Hi, I'm Barbara Robbins,
And I'm Breanna Cox.
and together we are the Awakened Woman. Welcome to our podcast. Today's topic is the art of networking authentically, building connections that empower and uplift. So, Brianna, that seems to say that networking doesn't have to feel fake, transactional, or exhausting.
Yeah, I
What
shouldn't.
what is what is what do you think authentic networking looks like?
I feel like when we're authentically networking, we are networking from a place of true alignment and joy and openness and desire and commonality. So it doesn't have to be commonality in the sense where everything is the same. I mean, commonality in the sense where we're on a similar journey or frequency as the other person. And because of that, it opens this really powerful space of connection and being able to network, which can open up really big doors of opportunity for all parties involved.
I this reminds me of an international entrepreneurial accelerator organization that I belong to. And there, you like one of the rules is you don't talk about yourself and what you're doing first. You always approach someone and say, "What are you working on and what do you need next?" And then you listen. And then, of course, it,
Interesting.
it always comes around to where you get to talk about your stuff. But you either in that situation, I listen to what they need, and I'm either the solution, I know somebody who is the solution, or I will take note of what they're looking for and I'll scout for them.
That's really cool. I like that. And I think that is actually a really important point to make that I didn't even think about. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it was so awesome because there were even times that this I would go to this. They'd have a forum 5 times a year, and so for a few years I went each time. And there, I can't tell you how many times that was talking to someone and they said, I need blah, blah, blah. And I knew someone there that could help them. And I saw them across the room and I grabbed the person's hand and not dragged them, walked them over to where their solution was. And I introduced them to each other. It felt so amazing to be able to do that.
That is amazing. I think it would be like an affiliation. So a lot of times when people think of, for example, affiliates, they think of like cold marketing or somebody watching a YouTube video and they're like, hey, this is a product I'm using. And if you want to use it, here's a discounted link to go to. And then that person gets paid by that
Hmm.
organization. But another way of doing affiliate work is, for example, if two coaches help each other and they refer back and forth, or maybe they each have the other person as part of their coaching program for something that they offer that enhances that person's package. So, for example, let's say if you and I were to do that, and I were to have one of your healing sessions as part of my package, and you were to have one of my shadow work sessions as part of yours, we could enhance each other's offer and support each other and, have it set up in what way we could do that. And so that's another way to network authentically is also not just as the bridge, which is super awesome, what you're
Hmm.
talking about of connection, connecting people that way as that kind of network, but also as an opportunity to collaborate and work together in business, which I feel
Hmm.
like is really the point of networking is to form those connections, either like a tree, where it's sort of connected down the grapevine or to be connected directly where, hey, like we really click and we really like what we're doing and now we're doing something together, or like how you and I are doing the podcast. that
Hmm.
is the result of authentic networking because we both like the vibe of each other and we're like, hey, let's do this podcast because we both want to help women. Let's go. To me, that is like a result of authentic networking. But on the flip side, if we're out there and we're just trying to like force these interactions with people who we may or may not align with, who maybe don't need what we have to offer, or we don't know anyone that that has what they need, then it almost creates this like block or stagnancy, and it's not coming from like an aligned place. So it's not going to open doors, it's going to close them. And that's just how I look at it.
I know that everybody listens to the radio WIIFM. You know what radio station that is?
Apparently, I'm not everybody.
It's What's in It for Me.
Ah, okay, I guess I am everybody. I just didn't know the acronym. Now that I do, yeah, that fits.
So, whenever you're talking with somebody, the main thing they're interested in is themselves, no matter who it is. Everybody is more interested in themselves than anybody else.
True.
So, when you are conversing with them, and even if you aren't the solution to what their need is, and you don't know anyone who is the solution, the fact that you're listening to them, you're authentically listening to them, it endears you to them. And so they like you more. And then if it ever comes up that you get to talk about your own stuff with them, they're more likely to remember who you are and what you do because it's presented to them on a plate of you're a really super nice person of value that I feel comfortable with.
100%. And I wanted to kind of talk about where authentic networking can be exhausting. And this is where I think it no longer becomes authentic, is if, like you said, listening, authentically listening to somebody, holding space for them is what I call it.
Hmm.
As long as we're not continually putting ourselves in that place without any energy being put back into it. In other words, as long as we're not always pouring into others and we're not getting it pouring into us,
Oh
that
yeah.
works. But that type of energy, I'm just like I will talk to clients, for example, and help them and try to come up with, solutions or point them in the direction where I think they're good solutions, right? But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to sit there and engage with the client back and forth for a half hour with all of their questions when they could, book a coaching session or a consultation, right?
Right.
Or have them go on and on about their personal lives, because then it's getting into I'm expending my energy holding the space and giving feedback, and that's where I feel like I draw the line. And so for me, thus saith Brianna, right? Part of authentic communication and networking for me is also having strong boundaries of where my limits are of how I connect and network with people.
Yeah, for sure. You don't want to be a dorm like, oh yes, I have to sit and listen to them and take in what they're saying and just let them know that I appreciate them. And like, no, you can only do that for so long. And then the balance, the energy exchange is no longer balanced. And that's the boundary where you have to, well, okay, it was nice. I'll scout for you. I'm going to go talk to somebody else right now because you
Absolutely.
don't,
I like
yeah,
how you put that, you know.
yeah, yeah, because we got to maintain our own integrity. And, if somebody's not, it's like with speed dating. It's kind of the same thing. You're either, I mean, you don't have to go by a clock, but you engage with somebody and you talk to each other, and you either know that there's a vibe between you or there isn't. And if there isn't a vibe there, a good vibe and a connection, then okay, next.
Well, especially with women, because I feel like a lot of women don't like networking or marketing or anything along those lines because it feels inauthentic, because it feels salesy or self-promotional or even masculine. And a lot of women are switching
Hmm.
gears out of the hustle and the more artificial way of doing things, algorithm chasing, cold DMs, things of that nature, and more into the feminine energy of alignment, the softer life, like aligning to those who are on the right frequency to us
Hmm.
instead of chasing down people or trying to network with everybody we come in contact with, because that's not feasible. It's draining. And again, kind of going back to what I said earlier, it's really going to close more doors and it's going to open them. And it's going to be off-putting to a lot of people too, because a lot of people feel that way themselves. And so, I mean, I don't like cold DMing people because I don't like to be cold DM'd, just as an
Hmm.
example. And there's a lot of different types of coaches, for example, that do that. And I tried it in the very beginning of my coaching business, and I was like, this is not for me. I'm not going to
Yeah.
do it because it feels weird.
I
It
mean,
should be
a
about
cold
building
DM,
relationships.
yeah, as soon as I get a cold DM, I'm like, I've never taught, I was in a workshop with them 7 years ago, never talked to them one time. And now they're DMing me about something they want me to take a look at. Like, no, no. You can't even say hello. You can't even do like a, hey, how have you been? No. Hey, I got something really cool I want you to look at. No, thanks.
One thing that I want to say, and I know this is a little off topic, but I promise you it will come back around full circle, is don't be afraid to leave people on read or unread. If it doesn't resonate, if you get an email or a text or a message or a pitch or anything along those lines, I don't care if it's on a business networking site, social media, a dating site, an email from your boss, whatever. Don't be afraid to leave that motherfucker on read or unread, is how I feel. If it's like not going to resonate, if it's, especially if it's disrespectful or pushes boundaries, but even if it doesn't resonate, there's this pressure to be nice in the society when it comes to women. And yes, like when we're open and receptive, like we will be more open and receptive to opportunities. But there's a difference between being available and being valuable. And I feel like the more valuable you are, the more selective you are with your time and energy and who you entertain. And that has to do with everything: clients, colleagues, employers, employees, relationships, friendships, family, whatever. That's how I feel about it. Like those that are going to respect your time and your energy and bring value are the ones that we should connect with. And so, just tying that into what I was saying before with the authentic networking, is being honest about what you need and want. It's about them being honest about what they need and want, and you being honest about what you need and want, and how the two can meet in the middle, and not feeling pressure to have to network or entertain anyone that isn't on your wavelength. And it's not something to take personal. It just is.
When you said being available versus being valuable, the first thing that came into my head is something that I'm following this woman who does these reels, and she's, even though she's like in her 40s, she does this grandma deal. Um, and she's mostly doing relationship coaching, but whenever she says something and it's brilliant, she winds up saying, write that down, Write that down. And
I like that.
and as soon as you said there's a difference between being available versus being valuable, I heard her saying in my head, write that down, write that down.
That's great. I love that. You'll have to
But we
show me
can't.
this lady, by the way.
Okay, what is it? It hurts. All right. As soon as I see another one of her things, I'll pass it
Sure.
on to you.
There was something that stood out to me in my head while we're talking to is the whole being like collaborative rather than being competitive.
Yeah,
And that is something that I have had to work hard on. Um, Especially having Aries in the second house. It's it's kind of hard for me and I would never show it directly where people would think because like, having Mars Scorpio, I don't like to show my cards. So like that would kind of, you know, rule that in. But deep down, I would be feeling competitive. And a lot of times it would actually inspire me into action. And when it would inspire me into action versus like coming from a place of inspiration instead of like fear or sense of urgency, that was a good thing. But other times, what it would do is it would make me feel as though I was in competition with them long standing. And it took me a while to figure out it's like, you're not in competition. Like, that's coming from scarcity mentality. You're not in competition with anybody but yourself. And I always go back to like loaves of bread in the grocery store, even though I don't eat bread anymore because I've been in the carnivore lifestyle for almost a year now, but it's still a great metaphor. You go in the
right.
grocery store and you go in the bread aisle, and there's all of these different kinds of bread, types of bread, brands of bread, price ranges, and they all are in business and thriving because different people like different loaves of bread. So even though they're all
Yeah,
bread, they all have their own brand, their own message, right? And
yeah,
so as soon as I started looking at it like that, it was like, man, we could do more for ourselves and each other if we just work together with our individual differences and look at it as this actually enhances things. It helps more people because we're working together, networking together. And there's nothing to feel in competition with because even if I was to be in the same exact field, identical, clear across as someone else, there is no way that they're going to be able to do the exact things I do in the way I do it, and vice versa. I'm not going to be able to do the exact things they do in the way they do it. And different people are going to need different things from different people. And so it's really beautiful to kind of look at it as like we're not in competition, we're in collaboration because we all have something beautiful to offer that's unique. And when we can work together and do that, we can really help out way more people than if we look at ourselves as this island at it alone, like competing, which is also very masculine energy.
So this reminds me of a marketing class that I took in college, and we're talking about two competitors like Target and Walmart, for example. And it was where's the best place to locate your stores? And a lot of people were thinking, oh, far apart from each other, because then you don't even, there's no competition at all. And the teacher said, no, the best place to be is right next door. So th
100% true. And to this day, you'll still see Walmarts and Targets right next to each other.
yeah, yeah. Because the people you want everybody who's going to go in that they're not really collaborating, like actively collaborating, but they're drawing everybody that wants to go to that kind of store.
Mhm.
And then if the person can't find what they're looking for at one, they can just walk through the parking lot and go to the other one. They don't have to drive anywhere.
That's a fantastic metaphor, Barbara, and real life example of why that works. What I always found so interesting is when Starbucks will literally have another Starbucks across the street. That always tripped me out.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Like what?
I'm like, is it because the line is too long on the other one? And so you figure, okay, instead of losing customers, we'll just funnel them over to this side.
It's because people don't want to walk across the street. I'm over here. I'm right here. I have, I don't have all that amount of energy. I mean, I have to put effort into thinking about crossing the street to go to Starbucks. But when it's right here, right in front of me, oh, it's easy. I mean, I'm right here. It's right here.
What would you say are like the principles for authentic connection?
Well, I definitely what we said before about to focus on the to show real interest in the other person and what they're doing, what they need, what their interests are. Um, to listen more than you talk, asking questions. Oh my God, asking questions. Okay, I have another story that I just thought of. Um, there's a guy who he wrote a book called Networking is a Contact Sport. And he comes out of the sports world. He's very active. I think football, I don't know, could be baseball. Um, and he says a lot of really good stuff. But the thing that really got to me was if you're somewhere, like let's say you're at a party, could be cocktail party, could be a social thing, it doesn't matter. If you're with a group of people and you don't know what to say, you're just standing there with this person and nobody can figure out what to say. You pretend that you're the host. How are you doing? Do you need something to drink? Are you meeting people? You just start coming up with questions that you would ask that person to make sure that they're comfortable there. Are you having
Hmm.
success connecting with people that you're trying to network with or find solutions for? And I did that once at a regular like social party, sitting at a table with like 8 people, and all of a sudden nobody was talking. Just like all of a sudden everybody's like looking down at their food because they just can't think of anything to say. And I mean, it was horrible. And I turned to the person sitting next to me and I said, "Are you enjoying your meal?" And then it was just so easy to come up with some other questions. Like, oh my God, this really works.
That's also brilliant. You're coming up with a lot of really like brilliant, like poignant, I would say, like examples today. I'm loving
Thank you. I got a
it.
million of them. That's one of the things about having been around the moon, been around the sun a whole bunch of times, is you start collecting these amazing stories.
I
Yeah.
really like the idea of how we can apply like navigating this type of authentic networking like in different spaces. Like how would you do that? You know, authentic networking versus networking that people usually think of when they think of networking. Like how would you do that differently, like in different spaces?
Well, give me the idea of what you mean by different spaces. Let's get a few concrete examples of what some different spaces are.
Okay, so for example, social media, or maybe going to like a retreat, rather that is an online virtual retreat or an in-person retreat, or maybe a social gathering, kind of like you were just talking about. Just different, and you already gave one great example with that just now, but just different areas where you might meet people or come across people that, or it could even be a business dinner, or like you had mentioned earlier when we were talking before we started the podcast, a lounge at an airport, things of that nature. Like, how would you navigate that with authentic networking?
Well, a lounge at an airport, people are pretty focused on their own thing. So you just have to like scout for, you got to look around and see if anyone is, if anyone looks at you, you know, if everybody's got their
Mm-hmm.
head in their computer or their phone or they're sleeping, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of hard to make a connection with them.
Well, you know what's funny is it's actually one of the first places that people suggest for high value dating is a meeting at it like an airport lounge. And it is true that when you go in an airport lounge, I felt that way too going in there. It's like you're going there to either try to wake up and prepare for your next flight or unwind and eat and relax, or probably both. And you're not really usually up for socializing for the most part. But, you know, sometimes you might see people ordering alcoholic beverages and, you know, wanting to socialize. But yeah, that's been my experience too, Barbara. But I was just curious. Like, I
Yeah.
like what you said about
Okay.
getting eye contact because that's so
Yeah.
important. Like,
I have a better answer for when you're physically in the presence of other people. And this could be at the grocery store, at the mall, at a party, in a store, any kind of store, in the lounge of an airport, anywhere. This works in physical proximity. You, and well, this works for me. So you have to figure out what you can do for yourself once I give you the example. My glasses call attention to people. Not the ones that you normally see when well, even the ones that you see in pictures of me on the internet, because I have different ones that I wear in person. But people have actually walked across the mall when they see me to come up and say, I like your glasses. And
nice.
or in the grocery store, just wherever people, the cashier were like, I like your glasses. And it's so cool because because I'm a projector and I wait for the invitation. So I'm not looking for people to talk to. I might be in my own little thing of trying to figure out what did I forget to buy at the grocery store that I need for this thing I'm making for dinner. So I'm not thinking about people. And somebody will say, "Oh, I like your glasses," and I'm paying attention to them. And then I say, "Thank you so much." I said, "This is it's a great conversation starter." Like that's why I got them. And then the next thing you know, we've been talking for 10 minutes.
I love that. And that's actually an amazing example because that also ties into like us just being ourselves and the things about us or the things we do or wear or how we look or how we, you know, present ourselves, just being authentic and that drawing in the right people as well. Like
I
not
got
feeling like
another
you
one.
have to like be something like we're not. And because that's the whole point of authentic networking. Yeah, go for it.
I got another one. So I was going to all these workshops and people's energy just seemed, I didn't like their energy a lot of the time. And so for this one, I wore a ladybug antenna. Uh, and and no matter who turned around and looked at me, they always got a smile on their face. So like I didn't see anybody there that had a bad attitude. Everybody had a great attitude when they were looking at me. So so as
That's
an
adorable.
empath, that feels really good. Because like who wants to see people who are tired or crabby? But then again, people would come up to me because of that and say, "How come you're wearing those?"
Right. That's awesome. I love that. I've experienced that too with my tattoo. My chest tattoo draws a lot
Mm,
of people like, what does that mean? And you know, and other people that have tattoos be like, did that hurt a lot? Yes,
hmm.
yes, absolutely. It was terrible. This kind of goes back into the whole the right connections will find us with ease and joy. Like in fact, using that as an affirmation, like the right connections find you with ease and joy, or an affirmation might be, why do the right connections find me so easily and
Yeah,
joyfully?
write
Right.
that down. We got to find another one. We can't steal her. Write that down. We got to find something that's just as good as write that down because it's so brilliant. It's like if you don't wear glasses, then my thing about wearing like interesting glasses isn't going to work for you. Or if you don't want to wear a ladybug antenna, then that's not going to work for you. You have to find what works for you. So what could be, I'm just putting this out
That's
there.
a question for a journal prompt, actually. Speaking of writing shit down, ask yourself questions like that. What about me stands out that could be an authentic conversation starter that maybe I might even be uncomfortable with because maybe I'll feel like, oh, I'm too much, or that stands out too much, or I'm too loud. No, it's actually those very things that will draw the right people to you.
You can't stand out and be accepted. Nobody's nobody's going to be upset with you.
And even if you're not accepted, those aren't your people. That's how I look at it. Those people aren't, it's nothing to take personal. It's just those people aren't going to necessarily resonate with your brand or your image. And that's actually a good way to weed things out because the right clients, the soulmate clients, the aligned clients will be drawn to you when you are who you are.
Today, we've talked about authentic networking, that it's about relationships, resonance, and realness. Oh, a challenge going forward that you could try for this week is to reach out to one person with no agenda, just to connect with them. Be the host. Ask them how they're doing. And then in our next episode, we're diving into how to set career goals that actually feel right. Goals that balance your ambition and your intuition. If you're ready to stop pushing and start aligning, don't miss it. Until next time, I'm Barbara,
And I'm Brianna.
and we are the Awakened Woman.